Iran and to kill people. We gave several terrorist groups $400 million about 3 or 4 years ago to go in and to disrupt the Iranian government. That is an act of war. And certainly they've killed 5 Iranian nuclear scientists, several key diplomats. Those are acts of war, and we finance that. We have our drones flying over their country. We have put sanctions on them. We've sanctioned their central bank so that they can't trade with other countries. We want to sanction their oil so they can't sell their oil any place in the world. We are involved with at war with Iran, but they haven't told the American people this. But the frightening thing that Kronig said was this. When we attack Iran, why, of course, Iran, what we will do will be a surgical strike. We're not going to go to war with Iran. We're not going to send troops in. What we're going to do is a surgical strike. We're going to knock out their nuclear production facilities, or at least most of them will leave the production facilities in Tehran and other cities. That is where they're enriching the uranium and they have the centrifuges. We'll wipe out all their nuclear bases and leave their military intact and leave their government intact. We're not trying to defeat Iran. We're going to leave their military intact so they can retaliate. Why do they want them to retaliate? Well, the government has to retaliate to maintain the support of the people. So he's anticipating, and this is all laid out. This is his plan, formerly senior advisor.
No, you're right. In fact, I meant to call Paul Watson and have him write an article, West Plans Iran False Flag, or West Plans Sophisticated Iran False Flag, because it's still a false flag to attack them and say that you know they're going to attack back, and what you really want is the political diversion while the mega banks are robbing everybody, while the rights are being abolished, while the internet censorship is going into place. That's what the globalists are really seeking, is that wider war. And you're right, he says that, and I haven't even really pointed that out. And so I'm glad you called to point this out. We need to make a bigger deal out of this. Let's get Bob Chapman's take on this and then expand on this, Dr. Monteith. And we'll have you back up for a full hour next week to really flesh this out further. But stay with us.
All right.
Bob Chapman, this is a big deal, isn't it?
It certainly is. And when they started their hijinks about a month ago, everybody was saying, oh, we're going to have a war, and here it comes, and so on and so forth. And I said at that time, these people are playing games. This is a diversion. Logistically, they're not ready to go into Iran. They'd like to do. I think that's a year or more away. And so I think it's just dancing around. But the public doesn't know that. They're looking over there at Iran, waiting for the Abraham Lincoln to be blown up, going through the Strait of Hormuz, when they should be looking at pensions and profit sharing and their shares and all of their investments and whether they're going to be working next week.
Well, certainly they want the war as a distraction and the threat of war. But if a war does start, Bob, that would be a big distraction for the globalists to ram a bunch of stuff through.
You're right. And probably ultimately it will happen because they need it. And the Russians are very well aware of this. A few weeks ago, one of their generals said on RT television that you get involved in Iran, you're going to have to deal with Russia.
That's right. Let's go back to Dr. Stan Monteith on that. How does Russia and China play into this? And why would the CFR be so arrogant in an article they put out publicly titled Time to Strike Iran and say, and for those that don't know, this is a main globalist mouthpiece where they communicate with each other. So this is official. Hey, they're going to attack us. We're going to let them attack us. I mean, why would they be so bold as to admit that, Doctor?
Well, this is the most amazing thing. This article, which I have on my lap, actually came from the transcript of the meeting held in private for very few people. This was not for general.
Oh, wait. You're saying this isn't the article I saw he wrote. This is separate. Please read to us what he said and tell us where this is, or have you put this online yet?
I haven't put it online, but I will tell you what, I will have my secretary fax you a copy of this, because I want you to get this information out. Basically, what Kronig says is, look, basically, we're not going to do a lot of harm to the regime. We're not going to harm their military. We're just going to take out their nuclear facilities. And when the mullah wakes up, Khamenei wakes up in the morning, he's finds that he's been attacked. But his regime is intact. His military is intact. He's going to have to do something to retaliate. But we have to be prepared to absorb the retaliation. Now, remember, this is not just a casual guy. This is a key man of the CFR. He is the Stanton nuclear security analyst for the CFR, and of course, he was the senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense.
Well, how are you getting this information? I mean, I saw what they published on their website. You're saying this is the remarks. I guess you've been in the media so long that they just send you this stuff?
This is a covert meeting that was held last week, and basically, if you were on their list, which I am, and they tell you when they hold these meetings, they send you the transcript of it, and this was the most incredible thing I ever read. Let me tell you what he said. They are going to retaliate, and we're going to have to absorb the retaliation. And there were a couple of people in the audience that said, but how can we be sure that they're not going to do a lot of damage? I mean, what happens if they really hurt the United States, and then the United States has to then take action against them a second time? And, of course, the response was, well, I don't think that will happen. I guess this is what's going to happen. But the thing that frightens me, Alex, is that if I were the Khamenei over there, I would immediately counter in retaliation by attacking Israel. And, I mean, can Israel withstand 1,000 missiles, 2,000 missiles? They have about 100,000 missiles between Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas, which is now getting sophisticated missiles. Why in heaven's name would anybody who really supports Israel want to actually go along with this thought of a surgical strike on Iran? The other thing is, of course, they could take out a couple of our aircraft.
Okay, so what is your point? Why do you think he's saying this?
Well, I think because I think this is what they are really thinking about doing. And I really believe that they put that article out. If you read the Wall Street Journal, I think it was the 18th of
Speak up for us, Doc.
There was a fellow named Mark Halpern, also in the CFR, who wrote an article on the editorial pages of the Wall Street Journal saying essentially the same thing, calling for this surgical strike on Iran so our children would be safer, and their children, our children's children would be safer. Obviously, they're building support for a surgical strike. And remember, this is not a war. This is just it is just a surgical strike. Well, I'll tell you what. I remember how World War I began. I remember how it began over in the Gulf of Tonkin. We were just going to have a little short war over there in Vietnam. And the fact that the former senior advisor of the Secretary of Defense not only is talked about a surgical strike, but the CFR has written the article. They put this in the Wall Street Journal. I think they're thinking about it. They don't want a major war at this time, but what happens if Khamenei doesn't do what's logical? What happens if he attacks Israel? What happens if he sinks 3 of our carriers over there?
Yeah, this is bizarre, and if you think if the West is going to sit back with a retaliation ever, that's not going to happen. This is beyond bizarre. Let's get Bob Chapman's take on this and final comments from our other guest as well, Dr. Monteith. You know, Dr. Stan Monteith, who's been interviewing myself for 16 years or so and Bob Chapman for decades, I don't think he's ever contacted me wanting to come on. I mean, I can always get him on. He's a busy guy in his own right. So he's obviously concerned about this Iran situation. We see what the CFR had to say, echoed by the New York Times. Israel senses bluffing and Iran's threats of retaliation. I guess because they threatened to do something to aircraft carriers if they went back through the Strait of Hormuz. They did this week. Iran did nothing. And here's the CFR saying if Iran responds when Israel hits them, we've got to take it. I don't see the West politically doing that. I mean, I know that it's hypocrisy to hit them and then not let them hit us back, but I don't think that's going to happen. What do you think's going on here, Dr. Stan Monteith? Then we'll get Bob Chapman's take.
Well, basically, of course, this is not Israel attacking. We're not going to let Israel attack. We're going to do the job because, according to Matthew Kroenig, we can do a better job of it. But we have to, first of all, leave the Iranian military power intact and their ability to retaliate intact, so that we can, so they build up support for the Iranian government. If it were me, if I went to war, I'd want to win the war. They don't want to win the war. They anticipate retaliation, but they think it will be moderate. And but what frightens me, of course, is that this could very well spell the destruction of Israel, and it could spell us being forced to then counter whatever they do. And if they took out even one carrier and killed 1,000 American servicemen, and they can do it, they actually have their submarines there in the Persian Gulf. If we lost one carrier in response to the retaliation, what would we be forced to do? When you start a war, you never know how that war is going to end.
Well, it's definitely crazy.
We're not dealing with rational people. This is so irrational. As I read it, even people in the audience, and these are the internationalists attending this meeting at the Herald Pratt House at 5080 68th Street.
Yeah, this is the insiders. They were shocked. I mean, we're almost out of time here, but you know, there's a lot of talk about the West really put the mullahs in, and there's evidence to that, and Iran-Contra and the rest of it. Is there any evidence that the mullahs still work with the globalists, and this could all just be staged?
I believe that we have our agents planted at the highest level of the government over there. Why in the world would any rational individual like Ahmadinejad go out and say we've got to wipe Israel off the face of the earth unless he was play-acting and wants a justification for a war?
Well, we know an attack on Iran will prop up the mullahs that have got less than 30% approval rating. We'll talk more about this next week. Dr. Monteith, thank you.
God bless. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And Bob Chapman, I know you're on his show every Monday for 2 hours, so you were happy to let him run into some of your time, but he's pretty concerned about this. I hope you're right that it's a year off or may not even happen. What do you think about the Iranians at the top still working for the West?
Well, it is, but the important thing with Iran is which way is Russia going to go? Are they another funny subject of the Bilderbergers, the Illuminists? Very good question. Are they going to aid Iran and it becomes a real war? Or are they going to say, oh, we changed our mind? And so that's very, very important. And we can't answer that because we're not inside. And I'm too old to join counterintelligence again.
All right, Bob, you're awesome. Lord willing, we'll see you next Friday in the third hour. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There goes Bob Chapman. If you want a free copy of their National Forecaster, you can give Midas Resources a call, 800-686-2237. You can ask for a list of the gold and silver radio Alex Jones specials. They're incredibly good, including some deals with free books and videos, 800-686-2237. I'll see you back tonight, 7 o'clock, and back Sunday, 4 to 6. God bless. Oh, Bob.
Thank you for
Get our article on TSA liars and